All right, the clouds have finally parted and the rain has finally stopped. At least we've got a reprieve. Hope you guys enjoyed that flood footage. It's not really flood footage, it's the footage from after the proverbial flood. And after the proverbial flood, we have tonight's show. And that is going to segue naturally into a lot of the bridge work that we're going to have to be discussing in the course of this video. But first, before we get started, I do have to make just a little bit of a quick plug. So first things first, as some of you have known, as some of you have seen the flyers and posts I've been putting out, as I've donned my Lions vest and hat, the New Milford Lions Club is selling Easter bunnies, chocolate bunnies. They come in dark chocolate and milk chocolate, $5 a piece. And we've been going around town. Special thanks to H.H. Taylor and Son, the Bagel Barn, New Milford Gift Shop, the Mayor's Office, Meadowbrook Gardens, and the Women's Clubs for those that have been carrying our bunnies and for those that have invited us and have been willing to host us for their events. We're going to continue to sell these right through Easter weekend, which is next weekend. So get them while you still can. These things are going to sell out, even though we've way over ordered them. Do reach out to me if you'd like to get your hands on some, or go to the Bagel Barn where there still should be some left over. You can go to New Milford Gift Shop and get them, and you can go to the Mayor's Office, I believe, and they still have some over at the Mayor's Office. So special thanks to all of those businesses and groups and organizations that have helped us out with all of that. So go ahead, get your bunny for $5. Get it before they sell out. Get it before it's too last minute to make the trip or to make the accommodations. Either way. So with that, hope you guys enjoyed that intro. A little bit of a mix up. Ray, if you're watching, that was for you. I know you don't like the standard practice that we do here with our intro, so I figured I'd go out and get some footage today of some of the much higher waters. Almost every drop of water you saw in the beginning of this video was from the West Aspetuck River. And we're going to come back to that later. And when I say later, I mean in a minute or two, because with the flooding that we've had over the past week and over the weekend, the Indian Trail Bridge has unfortunately been forced to close. This is what that looks like today. So for those of you who are frustrated with the whole Ternisky Road Bridge process, here's another 12-foot long single lane bridge that may or may not come up. And before we have to deal with any nonsense, let's nip this in the bud. This right here, is what that bridge looks like. Tiny little rinky-dink bridge, right now made basically entirely out of wood. And you can see how it goes over a tiny rinky-dink little stream. And you can see how it's a dirt road and already a single lane. So a little bit different from how we would do Ternisky Road, which for the entirety of its miles of length is already 2 lanes. So Indian Trail, that bridge is out, and that is as a direct result of flooding. Interestingly, 1 block south, so a stone's throw from the intersection of Indian Trail and West Meeting House, a stone's throw from that is a Tamarack Road Bridge, and that's what that project looks like. Now, this project has been ongoing as a direct result of the interference of the Army Corps of Engineers and bureaucratic red tape, basically, that is piled onto this project. So here's 2 bridges that are currently closed that are almost certainly both, well, in the case of the one you see here, Tamarack Bridge is in the middle of being replaced, and I'm pretty sure, Mike Boucher, if you're watching, you can probably confirm, pretty sure that the one in India Trail is going to need to be replaced because of the damage that was done to it as a result of the recent flooding. And as you know, again, right up the road from all of that is the Ternisky Road Bridge. So we've got 3 bridges within 2 or 3 miles of each other that are either going to in the middle of being replaced, going to need replaced, or probably going to need to be replaced. Additionally, there's a ton of road work scheduled for this year. Yes, for those of you who have been driving down Wellsville, that road is going to get basically a Band-Aid in the meantime, and then fully replaced by the end of the year. That is one of the higher priority roads because of the amount of traffic and the amount of damage combined to make that something of a priority. From what I understand, Mr. Mayor Bass has made that a fairly high priority road, and that's going to get repaired. But there's a ton of road work that's going to need to be done this year. And unfortunately, in addition to the 3 bridges that I mentioned, there are going to be some bridges along the Chernisky Road detour that are going to need to be replaced. And the frustrations are only continuing to pile. So I showed you some of that footage at the beginning was from the West Aspetuck River. And there are some bridges that we've replaced over the last 4 or 5 years that directly cross that West Aspetuck River, with none of the crazy nonsense that's been going on from the 5 or 6 people, the dirty half dozen, if you will, squeakiest wheels, who have been making ridiculous demands into the pedantic minutia of operations when it comes to this bridge design and engineering over at DPW. This is why the Chernisky Road Bridge has taken 5 years and is going to wind up costing, if things go as they are likely to go, this is going to go over $2 million for an 18-foot-long bridge. So this is something that we could potentially be running into these bridges. Now, if it's just partisan politics, then we won't run into these problems because they're partisan rather than principled. So the reason I have been pushed to the brink when it comes to the Chernisky Road Bridge project, for those of you who have not been following at home, for those of you who have been on Mars and consider themselves residents of New Milford, yes, I have actually been putting together. Let me get this petition out pulled up. For those of you who have somehow managed to miss out, yes, I have been pushed to the brink, and I for the first time in my life, not only have I put together a petition, this is the first petition I've ever signed, and as it reads, it's the Build the Damn Bridge petition with, of course, the picture that everybody's been seeing, Boondoggle Bridge. So, still time to get. Let me get this. Let me get this link so you guys can jump onto here. There's still time to sign the online version of this petition. I also have on paper versions of this petition that'll be much more useful in getting town council to come to a position, which is, of course, to tell these 5 or 6 people enough. Enough is enough. We're not wasting any more of your taxpayer dollars and your time. This bridge has already taken 5 years, and it's already been said, and Jack Healy's already said that because of all of this, and because of his bending over backwards to cater to the whim of these the 5 or 6 most belligerent people in the room, not only is it going to take more than 5 years, because we're not even going to break ground until next year. It's going to a project which could have been completed 2 years ago could have also been completed for something like $400,000. I have that for a quarter of what it's going to wind up costing in the end. So this is a process that we can't let this type of interference take place. Yes, I am entirely in favor of consent of the governed. However, in this case, what we're talking about is the taxpayer dollars of the entire town. And there's no reason for us to be deliberately obtuse when it comes to this bridge and the duties of the town council and the overwhelming majority of opinion of the 28,000 in this town. So let's go over this petition again. I'm gonna go ahead and let me share this link in the comments section now. Just getting over to, let's put it in Facebook. And let's put this into YouTube. I'd really appreciate if you guys could sign the online version. I've been driving around with the on paper version too. So if you guys want me to come to you, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to drive to your door with the on paper version of this petition. And also, real quick before we move on to, if you're on Facebook, I am testing out ultra low latency on YouTube. So if you want to give that a try, ultra low latency means that the stream will be much closer to real time. There'll be much less of a quote unquote delay. So if you guys want to check that out, link is in this video's description. I've also linked that in the comment section. So let's run through this petition real quick. It takes about 5 minutes to read the whole thing, and I'll try to do this at Ben Shapiro speed so we can get through it, because we've gone over this a few times. Infinite money is not an appropriate limit to governmental spending on any project, much less an 18-foot bridge. If nothing else, New Milford's governing body, the town council, must understand that the money that is taxed from New Milford residents is not their money and should be treated far more delicately than spending hundreds of thousands and probably millions more of our money on the Trinsky Road Bridge project to cater to the whim of the loudest 5 or 6 people in the proverbial room. That's the headline, folks. We could just stop right there. But we'll go on so we can get into the actual details of what's going on here for those of you who have missed out on this bridge project. Excuse me. $600,000 of ARPA money, which we'll talk about later, has already been set aside for this project, which could have been spent in other places. Had the Department of Public Works / Town Council simply accepted the early draft design proposals and moved on with the project, that amount would have not only certainly covered the replacement of the bridge in totality, prompt agreement to let DPW do their jobs would have seen this project completed years ago. The project is now set to not only not even break ground until next year, delays in the demands of the said loudest half dozen people have caused the project's cost to balloon to well over $1 million. After over 5 years, 4 series of bridge designs, 1 emergency act, and 2 DPW directors worth of bending over backwards to cater to the whim of said half dozen and their interference into the specific minutiae of the bridge's design, what is on the table now are 2 competing designs, a 2-lane bridge and a 1-lane bridge. Remember that. That's what we're talking about. Building a 1-lane bridge by current estimates will fail to meet the demands of the state of Connecticut, will disqualify the town for a 50-50 matching grant, whose window for application closes on April 30th of this year, so much less than a month away, from the state, and will at net cost New Milford taxpayers at least $830,000 more than already spent, and at net $600,000 more than a 2-lane bridge design. So just remember that. Lots and lots more money for a 1-lane bridge than a 2. It is also likely that a box culvert design, which we can talk about. If you guys have questions about what a box culvert design is, let me know in the comment section. We'll talk about it. Rather than the proposed poured-in-place design, would save hundreds of thousands of dollars still, which is their demands. The demands of these people are that are a poured-in-place design, not a box culvert design. The box culvert design is way cheaper. So we can talk about that if you want me to. Further delays in the project's run will only increase construction costs, and the current delays have forced environmental studies, which will have no legal impact on the bridge's design and construction, regardless of what the studies find, and will only act to increase costs and add time. The current delays have also led the Army Corps of Engineers to a position where they are demanding a 2-foot freeboard, which would increase the bridge's construction costs by hundreds of thousands of dollars further still. Again, if you guys don't know what that 2-foot freeboard is, in very short, they're demanding that the bridge be actually raised 2 feet, which is also going to force an increase in the length of the bridge, and there's other considerations to be made there. So if you guys want me to talk about what a 2-foot freeboard is, we can talk about that. Let me know in the comment section. It is patently obvious that a 2-lane bridge along a road, which is 2 lanes for the entirety of its miles of run, except for those 18 feet, is a significantly more safe design than a 1-lane bridge, which would force drivers to face 2-ton hunks of steel in opposite directions down the same stretch of road. This is an undue danger regardless of what speed the drivers are traveling, and this is the primary basis for why the state refuses to go along with the single-lane bridge design. The demands of said half dozen have delayed the project to its breaking point, literally. The structural supports of the bridge have critically failed and are beginning to collapse entirely and in large chunks. I've shown photos of this, by the way. As such, the bridge has been closed for almost an entire year and will continue to be so until the project completes, with other bridges being set for replacement along the Trinsky Road detour. Both our fire and police chiefs have sent formal safety concerns for the provision of emergency services to the parts of New Milford surrounding the bridge and have requested swift, if necessary, emergency action be taken to remedy the situation immediately. As such, the town has considered purchasing an emergency temporary bridge structure, again, something we can talk about. Let me know in the comment section if you want me to talk about that, which would allow the Trinsky Road Bridge to temporarily open in short order for what will likely be over $200,000. There is no reason to be treating the hard-earned money and the majority of residents in New Milford in this manner. There is no reason to allow the most obnoxious and belligerent half dozen to justify the interference with the pedantic minutiae of engineering design at DPW to this degree. Consent of the governed requires their consent, and there is no reason to believe with any sincerity the majority of this town is willing to have their money spent and time wasted in this manner. It is, therefore, the opinion of the here signed, please let that be you, link is in this video's description, that it is time for the New Milford Town Council and the Department of Public Works to move forward with the bridge's design in the manner that will waste the least of our money and our time. 2 lanes with, if it saves time and money, a box culvert. It is time to end this conversation and to reject the policy of the squeakiest wheel gets the grease, a policy which only reduces the playground rules of the biggest and most obnoxious bully gets his way. It is time to let reason and good sense prevail, which our elected officials were elected for, to prevail. It is time to let DPW do their damned jobs and build the damn bridge. So that's a petition that's been going around. Again, I put the link in the comment section. I've got an on-paper version of it, and in the he's watching the show right now. He's been the best fan I've had so far. Ray Lillis also has a paper copy that you can sign as well. Make sure you get it to him. Tomorrow night I will be. Let me bring up my notes. Tomorrow night I will be in the tomorrow night I will be in the E. Paul Martin room setting up for the town council meeting that is going to be tomorrow night. I'll be there basically all day. So please come down tomorrow to the E. Paul Martin room, and at wherever anyone's allowed in, come down to town hall, go to the second floor. I'll be there in the E. Paul Martin room. Love to meet you. Love to have a quick conversation with you. I don't have infinite time while I'm setting up, but I have a minute or two to talk to you about all of this, or talk to you about whatever you want, and to get your name on this petition. This is the thing that is going to convince the 6 sane Republicans on the town council to say, you know what? No, we were elected in a landslide for a reason. We all know what the situation is here. We all know we're the ones that have a pulse on the majority of opinions here in New Milford. And you know what? We're done. Jack, give us a 2-lane bridge. If you can do it with a box culvert, get us a box culvert design. Build the damn bridge. Enough is enough. We're not hearing any more of this. We're not hearing any more of this. You guys are the ones that have been holding us up. We're done. You guys are the ones that have caused the costs to run up the way they have. We're done. And for the record, if any councilman is watching this, if any of the 9 councilmen are watching this, never again. Absolutely never again. If we have to replace the Indian Trail Bridge, do not let it turn into this. Do not let it turn into this. Do not let the Indian Trail Bridge, which I showed you pictures of, turn into a $2 million, half-decade-long project. There's absolutely no reason for this. There's absolutely no reason for interference into the pedantic minutia of operations over at DPW when it comes to the specific bridge designs and the specific designs of major construction projects happening around town. If you guys don't like what Jack Healy is doing, run for some sort of office, vote for somebody who's going to go into office and fire him. Otherwise it's time. He's an engineer for a reason. He's the one doing the engineer for a reason. He is the head of DPW for a reason. We trust his judgment on these type of matters. We trust him to go through the engineering and architectural process. And if we don't, I'm sorry, that's his only job. If we can't trust him to do that, then we fire him. Quite frankly, Jack Healy has been an absolute saint throughout this process. An absolute saint. So, no, I absolutely am not implying that he should be fired. In fact, he should be lauded for what he's been able to do throughout the course of this project and through the course of this process. Quite frankly, if I was in his shoes, I would have been fired 2 years ago. I would have been fired over a year ago over this project. So, Jack, there's no amount of praise that is too much for me to give to you on this whole thing. The interesting thing is, and I've gotten a bunch of signatures on both the online version and the in-paper version. I've talked to a lot of people, and I want people to know, I want all of the councilmen who are watching too, or who wind up watching this, to know what the response has been when I've been presenting people this petition, especially in person. First things first, no one disagrees with the petition. No one. Absolutely no one has disagreed with the petition. Even the people that were like, "Oh, well, Mike, what are you talking about? What is this whole thing? let's talk about it, and I'll present it. I try to do these things in a neutral manner, but there's no way to be perfectly charitable with this. Even a charitable take is one that's going to involve, it is degradation, is one that's going to involve some degradation, because when we're in a situation where the word ridiculous means worthy of ridicule. And at this point, it's been earned. The response has been earned. And the response, again, has been not only agreement with this petition, the only people who have even kind of disagreed with this position are the people who are saying this isn't going far enough, Mike. Like, at this point, screw it, don't build a bridge. About a quarter of the people I've talked to have said, at this point, we're done. We've been poured on with so much cynicism that the response that has been earned by this cynicism is cynicism. And again, it's been earned. If you want to be a genie, you got it. And everything that goes with it. And that cynicism is, at this point, no, don't build the bridge. Don't build the bridge. Park a couple of Jersey barriers on either side of the bridge and abandon the bridge. And by the way, we've done this. Abandon the road. Abandon that 18-foot stretch of road. We've done this before. I've watched it happen. And because I've been there to watch it happen multiple times, not only has it happened multiple times, it's happened recently. I wasn't that involved in town politics in 1994. In fact, I wasn't involved in town politics 30 years ago. I was like 6 at that time. So no, I wasn't involved back then. But that means that this is not a completely this isn't a completely unheard of process, abandoning a road. This happens. And that's been the cynical take that I've gotten in response. And it hasn't been like 5 out of 100. It's been like 25 out of 100. It's been like 20 to 25 out of 100 people that I've talked to on this matter have said, at this point, no, screw it. I don't want to build a bridge. Never mind that. And I kind of sympathize with them, because at this point we've basically already committed to hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've basically already committed to that, even if we abandon the bridge. Even if we just say the Jersey barriers are already there, screw it, we're done. And you 5 or 6 people who are costing this town straight up hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that didn't need to happen, that didn't need to be put in place. If you want to build your gold-plated Taj Mahal bridge, the bridge is yours. You can spend your money on it. You can spend your money on it. And we talked about this last week, but to anyone in any system of representative government who believes that, infinite money is that these problems are just solved by these problems of meeting the demands of these 5 or 6 people, the 5 or 6 squeakiest wheels in the grease, are resolved by just backing up a dump truck full of cash. Why not just spend, all it's going to take is hundreds of thousands of dollars of your money, right? All it's going to take is a whole lot more money. So therefore, wash your hands of it, problem solved. That's a disgusting take in any representative system of governance. This is not your money. This is not your money if you're on the town council. This is not your money if you're one of those 5 or 6 people. This money belongs to 28,000 people. This money belongs to something like 10 to 11,000 tax bills. This money should be handled significantly more delicately than that. And that's why I've got this petition going along, right? So first things first, on that note, segue, tomorrow's town council meeting, which I was expecting to have the Trinisky Road Bridge project on it, it's not there. Excuse me. And because it's not on tomorrow night's town council meeting, I'm going to extend the petition another 2 weeks until the next town council meeting. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because although I would like to present on Monday, because of my duties as the person handling the broadcast of the meeting, it's really, really difficult from a technical feasibility standpoint to go up to the podium and present. It's just incredibly hard from a technical standpoint to do it. So I'm only going to go up to that podium for this project once. And I'm only going to hand in these signatures once. I'm only going to show a screenshot of the number of signatures on change.org once. And the crazy part is the grant application for this thing is due April 30th. Now, from what I understand, Jake Healy's basically got the grant application done, but it's already April 10th. Tomorrow's going to be April 11th. 2 weeks from that is April 25th. That's cutting it awful, awful close. So it's frustrating that it's not on the agenda for tomorrow night, but I can't imagine it's not going to be on the agenda on the 25th. I will talk to Pete. I will talk to Pete and make damn sure it's on the agenda for the 25th. What is on tomorrow night's agenda, however, another project from DPW, is the line striping of Long Mountain Road. As some of you know, here comes another one, and we'll try to get through this as quickly as possible because this is kind of boring. But the point is, again, this is another situation where I have a really hard time just throwing away even $1 of which your money. It's not my money. It's not my money. And if I'm on the town council making these type of decisions, yes, I'm pinching pennies. Absolutely. Absolutely. These are if COVID has shown us nothing, it's that government sucks at everything. Whatever the private sector can do, whatever the public sector can do and the private sector can do, the private sector does better, faster, cheaper. Better, faster, and cheaper, and by a lot. So I'd rather have that money in your hands, and then you can decide what you want to do with it. Just like the people who have responded to the cynicism with cynicism when it comes to Chernisky Road. It's your money. If you want that bridge, go ahead. Take the bridge. We're done with it. And then you can do with that bridge with your money. With your money. Not my money. Not 28,000 people's money. With your 5 or 6 people worth of money. Build whatever you want. Build whatever bridge you want. You want to make, again, gold-plated Taj Mahal Bridge, all yours. You want to make it entirely out of marble, all yours. Corinthian leather, lined, right? Corinthian marble. Go ahead. Go ahead. Make it out of some unconscionably expensive form of granite. I don't care. But the same holds true with the line striping of Long Mountain. And this is where I'm going to take kind of a heterodox position. So one of the fellows that has been presenting on the Long Mountain Road project has been presenting some studies that have shown that in these rare cases where we have a road like Long Mountain, narrow, windy, super rural, not heavily trafficked road, right? 2 lanes, 1 lane going one way, 1 lane going the other. In the case of Long Mountain, it's mostly northbound, mostly southbound. We're going from the middle of nowhere, New Milford, to really not like the suburbs of New Milford, the suburbs of the suburbs. So in these type of circumstances, the idea and what the data seems to show is that it's actually safer not to paint lines on these roads, with the idea being that people will be much more attentive to what lane they're in because there's not a line there. They'll have to consciously focus on that. And because they're consciously focusing on that thing, they will tend to be slower drivers. Now, we're not talking about painting a line down the middle of the entirety of Long Mountain Road. It's just the north, roughly half of the road, the super, super rural half of the road that got repaired and replaced a few years ago. So the same holds true. If it's actually safer to not paint the line, and I'm not of the belief that some people have been saying that the data that's been presented is in relation to roads and driving conditions in Europe, which aren't the U.S. Well, I mean, okay, I suppose, but if we're going to pick one way or the other, if we're going just based on inklings and intuitions, I would much rather have, if we're making an empirical claim, I would much rather rely on the empiricism that's been done, even if there may be some flaws in the matter. I would rather leverage that, especially if I can use it as a way to say, well, why do we need to pay however many guys to go up there for however long with a painter and paint however many miles of road that is? I know in the grand scheme of a more than $100 million budget, that's whatever that project costs is probably not going to be all that much. And speaking of which, April 13th is this Wednesday. That's the public hearing for the Board of Finance for their side of the budget for the budget, which we'll get into in just a minute. But the idea is the same. This is if there's an opportunity to not waste taxpayer dollars, you jump on it. And that's because it's your money. It's your money. Not mine, not the council's money, not a handful of people's money. It's 28,000 people's money. And it should be treated extremely delicately because of that. So on that note, too, what's happening tomorrow night at 6:30 before the town council meeting is a town meeting to vote, to produce the final and official vote on the 3rd tranche of ARPA funds. So I'm going to go ahead and put the agenda link in the comments section here. This is on YouTube, and now we're going to go ahead and put it into Facebook so you guys can follow along. But we're going to just show you the agenda real quick. This is the agenda for the town meeting. for those who are playing at home, yes, we have an exact listing of all of the expenditures that are going to be voted on. It is the third tranche. And you have at the bottom here, you can see, if you can see my cursor, $1.89 million roughly in this tranche. And if you actually go down to the attached documents, you can see they've circled the rationale for all of these expenditures and where they've come from, and all of that. So you can see what those expenditures are, why they're there. Folks, let me know in the comment section if you want me to go line by line with all this, or if there's a line you want me to talk about. Some of these things are basic, like the first thing on there, water witch adjustment. That's a clerical error. So there were funds that were approved out of the ARPA funds by the town council that were voted on at a previous town meeting, but they were the incorrect amount. It was a clerical error. So that's what's going on towards that. One of my frustrations with this whole process has been a similar frustration to what we've been talking about all night. And I'm going to offer a hot take, right? The crazy libertarian in the room has been pretty frustrated by the way that the ARPA funds have been treated. It seems to me it's been treated like a grab bag full of loot. It seems to me like the American Rescue Plan Act funds are just a tax. It's just a money grab that's just been taken out of your future. It's just money printer go burr. And since it's been taken out of your pocket for no reason, during a time when people can't afford to have this money be taken out of their pocket, it should go right back into your pocket. All of this ARPA money funds, if it was legal, what I would do is just say, how much of the tax bill of the total tax collections, excuse me, what percentage of total tax collections did you pay in this last fiscal year? Okay, you paid, 0.9%, 7.9 million times 0.9%, check, put it in the mail. That's what I do with it. It's still going to hurt. It's still just inflation. It's still just artificially inflating the supply of money. It's still just money printer go burr monetary policy. But at least you get to decide what happens with your money in the case of that money printer go burr monetary policy. So far, again, hot take, because I'm acting on principle, I would have voted against virtually every single one of these expenditures on the town council. And not because I'm a partisan hack, literally looking over my shoulder, and I won't name names, to say, how did you vote on this sort of thing when you're in the case of the minority party in the room? If I'm, by the way, as the libertarian in the room, holy God, am I going to be in the minority position, right? And I know that I might be the crazy libertarian in the room, but this is the principle. And you might disagree with the principle, but this is the principle. So far, and I'll bring us back over to these main expenditures, and let's go ahead and just zoom in to so you guys can see this. I'm going to go down to item number 7. This is the New Milford sewer abatement. This is the closest thing I can think of to somehow getting that money just handed into the pockets of you, the voter, of you, the tax-paying citizen and resident of New Milford. So you guys are the ones that ridiculed me for saying a year ago, right off the bat, what should be done with this is this should somehow, because we can't legally just write people checks. We can't issue just a tax deferral. We can't issue just like there's a lot. We're basically just forced to spend the money, right? By law. So there's got to be a way to spend the money in a way that effectively does the same thing, right? The way that I thought of, and you guys ridiculed me, the closest things that I could think of to accomplishing that end would be to just take all $7.9 million and then create from nothing a 501c3 whose sole job is to issue vouchers for homeschooling. And the idea being that the link to COVID is that if COVID has done nothing else, it's shown with absolute certainty the flaws of public education. I'm not saying the flaws of the Board of Education here in New Milford or the flaws of teachers here in New Milford in the public system, but just the general even if New Milford's got the best public schools in the country, they're still not as good as they could be if they were exposed to market influences. And it doesn't necessarily mean private schools. Maybe that means homeschooling. To me, that's the place where, and we've talked about this, we've evidenced this, we've gone through the data on the matter. The single best predictor for educational outcomes is parental involvement. And how can you possibly get more greater parental involvement than to be the one doing the education, to have your home become the school. So to me, that's the way you make that connection. You say COVID exposed the critical weaknesses of public education in this area, and that's what's caused the explosion over the last 2 years that we've talked about and that we've shown in homeschooling, not only here in New Milford, but in Connecticut in general. Therefore, in response to that, the best way to serve people during COVID is to create this 501c3 that does nothing but dole out vouchers, and then you just hand them the money, and then the money is spent, right? So we've met that legal criteria. And at least it gets into the hands of not only a huge percentage of this town, but it gets into the hands of the people, a huge percentage of the tax roll effectively by allowing parents who are paying a ton. Most families pay a ton of taxes in this town. Most families are the people that are working at these businesses in either managerial or ownership positions or in directorship positions, that are making these business decisions in part, at least, based on what their home life is presenting for them. And in this case, if you can say, you know what, I'm going to stay home and watch the kids. Daddy's going to stay home and take care of the kids, and we're going to homeschool the kids. Mom is some executive. She can make enough money. And now that I have this, say, $15,000 homeschool voucher, that's enough to put us over the brink, and we're just going to pull our kids out of the system, and we're going to homeschool. And the rationale being that I'm not arguing that homeschooling in every situation is preferable. What I'm saying is that you have the choice. You now have the freedom to make that decision. And you could elect not to take the homeschool voucher and not homeschool. You could elect not to take the homeschool voucher and homeschool. So it's not going to get into the hands of every single taxpayer. And it's not going to be to the tune of the relative percentage, like I suggested, of taxes that you paid. But it's the closest thing to it legally. It's the closest thing to it legally, and I think now, like I think those people that have ridiculed me over the last year or so for suggesting that and saying, Mike, that's crazy. Like, why? Well, that we've got all the eat your words, eat crow, and now that money's basically gone, and there's no opportunity to get that back into the hands of the taxpayers. There's between $200,000 and $300,000 left, and that's it. The reason that I brought up the sewer abatement is because it's not really an abatement, it's a temporary moratorium. The idea is that the connection fees that the sewer commission is charging for businesses is being waived over the course of the next 2 years, and that dollar amount, that $136,000, is an estimate of the cost of producing this temporary moratorium. And the business sense behind that, the economics and finance behind that are that in business in general, when you have capital, you favor operations over capital, right? In a situation where you have the long-term operational growth, if you have a landscaping company and you have some money, you buy the lawnmower and you get the customers rather than saving the money, right? Not buying the lawnmower and, say, paying certain ongoing bills, right? Maybe you get a little late, maybe you get a little behind on the ongoing bills, but now you have the lawnmower. So you have favored operations. Now you have the lawnmower, and now you can do more work. Now you can mow more lawns. You know, you spend the money hiring another crew of guys and the equipment necessary for that so that you can grow, and then in that case, you favor operations. So that's the business sense that's behind that. And the idea is that that money, as a result, goes into it basically becomes a wash into the hands of the people who would be paying what is effectively a tax and paying that sewer connection. And by having those ongoing operations, now you have things like, if you're going to have a business connect, now you have things like, jobs. And that winds up going extremely indirectly into the pockets of you and me, Joe taxpayer here in New Milford. You know, it creates businesses that wind up paying more in property taxes over time, and thus reduces long-term costs to you and me, the taxpayer. So this is the closest thing we're going to get to that on the items that are here. Right? It's the closest thing to businesses and families residents, families industry that wants to connect to the sewer line now can at no direct cost to them, to the tune of $136,000 as part of a 2-year moratorium in response to COVID, especially now that, this is a time when businesses are hurting, and New Milford needs the influx of people, and it makes no sense to operate at 1/3 capacity. It makes no sense for a landscaping company to have, a 12-bay garage and only use 4 of those bays. You're paying if nothing else, the opportunity cost of those 8 bays and getting nothing for it. So that's what's going to be on the docket for tomorrow night. And from what I understand, the Democrats, the DTC, have kind of built up some hubbub for this. So there may actually be a lot of Democrats in the room. So if you're in favor of these ARPA funds expenditures, and for me, again, this is the first one where there's something on there that I can point to and say, you're kind of there. You're kind of there. Maybe not all the way there, but you're pretty close. Pretty close. It's the first one where I can say, that sewer abatement, that is kind of in line with what I was thinking of when it comes to these ARPA funds. At least kind of. So if you want these funds to actually be approved, this is where you get to actually cast your vote in a town meeting. The town council actually doesn't get to decide these expenditures. They get to decide the expenditures that go to you, the taxpayer, to you, the elector, to you, the voter, and this is your opportunity to vote. So E. Paul Martin Room, 6:30 p.m. tomorrow night. If you're going to be voting, that's a thing to vote on. Very likely there's going to be a lot of Democrats in the room voting against this. Again, not on principle. Not based on the things the arguments that I've presented here. Not based on that. No, based on Pete Bass, a Republican. Pete Bass, bad. Republican, bad. And, Republican, bad, therefore, no. Right? Which is what it's been over the last however long it's been since the minority got elected as winners by default. As winners and losers in a landslide who, because of minority party representation laws, got a participation trophy and a seat on the town council. And speaking of all of that too, as you guys know, 2022 is an election year. And over the past week, especially at the last town council meeting or RTC meeting, and there were a bunch of nominees that the RTC nominated. The headliner here in the area was Billy Mo Buckby. Let me just bring up what that looks like for you guys. So there's Billy. Let's zoom in. Let's zoom in so we can see what's going on here. Let's zoom in so we can actually read this. Should probably turn off notifications. So Billy Mo Buckby was the headliner in terms of the endorsements that were made at that meeting. At the previous meeting, the RTC also endorsed George Loken for Connecticut 5th. So he'll be running against Johanna Hayes, who might as well be a member of the squad based on how she's voted. So this is going to be an important race. This is going to be one, too, that could potentially be winnable. Oh, man, what am I doing here? Let me get this out. Get my notes out. So this is an important one. I'd love to have him on the show. George, if you manage to get this message, open invitation to come on to the show to talk about your election here. Now that you've at least received our nomination here in New Milford for Connecticut's 5th, I think that's going to be a really interesting race, especially considering that even though Johanna Hayes has the power of incumbency and the power of, for some reason, New Britain being in our district, gerrymandering, I would love to have George on to talk about his campaign. And you know what, too? Let's extend the invitation as well out to Johanna Hayes. She's never going to get it because she's in D.C. She's in the land of D.C. Democrats, so she's never going to get this message. But, Johanna Hayes, if you do get this message, open invitation to come on to the show and let's have a conversation like I had in 2021 with the candidates then, like I've had with Pete Bass several times, like I've had with a couple of Democrats. Why not? I'm happy to have these people on. At the last RTC meeting as well, there were a number of candidates for the U.S. Senate. This is Richard Blumenthal's seat here in Connecticut. And those candidates who spoke before the RTC were Peter Lumage, Leora Levy, and Themis Claridis. I didn't get a chance to hear the majority of Leora Levy's presentation, so I won't be able to talk about that. Real quickly, I really liked what Peter Lumage had to say. He was basically building the case that as he was extremely and openly anti-communist. He was extremely openly and anti basically the new woke agenda and was willing to come right out and say it. So I like the fact that he had the balls to say these things that need to be said that a lot of Republicans, especially in this area, just don't have the guts to say. And, having come from Albania, he's experienced communism firsthand, so that was really cool that he had a chance to talk about that. Sal, especially like that. So Sal's from Poland. So the two of them got to connect over their experiences, firsthand experiences with communism. The other candidate that was there to present was Themis Klarides, who sent her campaign manager. So let's bring up Themis. This is Themis, and she's got 9,600 followers on Facebook. And if we're not kidding ourselves, if we're just not kidding ourselves, Themis is going to get the nomination. So these are the three that are seeking the nomination across the state for the Republican candidacy to the U.S. Senate against incumbent Richard Blumenthal. Themis sent her campaign manager, which is kind of a bad look, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But let's be honest about this nomination here. Themis is going to get the nomination from the state. It's just what's going to happen. She's the CT House Majority Leader for years. She was the face of the party in Connecticut forever. She's already got an extremely well-established name and is a full-on household name among Republicans. The two people I just mentioned, most of you probably haven't heard of them. Themis has instant name recognition, and I showed you the following. She's already got a huge following built up. She basically has, I'll say it, the machine behind her. She has the money behind her. She's already, I think, raised it's $400,000. I'll have to come back to you on that one. Get back to folks on the amount she's raised. But she's already raised a ton of money. She's going to get the nomination. She's going to get it. And that's why I'm happy to have the other nominees on the show, but special invite specifically to Themis. I would love to have you on the show, especially since you're running for Senate against Dick Blumenthal in what is a basically guaranteed state, or what has been a basically guaranteed state for Democrats for years. So folks at home who are watching, yes, I've actually already spoken with her campaign manager. We've exchanged contact information. We've exchanged phone numbers, emails. We've been in touch. He said that she wants to come on, which is really, really cool. So guys, look forward to that. That could actually materialize. So look forward to that. I'll keep everybody posted. We may have her on as early as next week, not this coming week, but we may have her on as early as next week, depending on how things go and how things line up in terms of the timing of the nomination. Now, getting back to skipping New Milford, right? I get it. You can't be in two places at the same time. Themis is not a subatomic particle. She can't be in two places at the same time. Not subject to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So she was in some other place, not New Milford. And I get it. You can't be in two places at the same time. So Podunk New Milford gets the campaign manager, and I believe she was in Fairfield that night. So big city Fairfield gets the actual candidate herself. But there's more to it than this. And context actually matters. Because in a lot of the state, Democrats are not ever going to be voting Republican. There aren't any swing votes in a lot of these districts. And in a lot of these districts, if we look across the state, there are more registered Democrats than there are basically anything else. Basically, the Democrats just vote party line. There's no hope of getting a Republican elected. So places like New Milford are places where there's real opportunities to win people over. And what do I mean by that? Here in New Milford, I've described in private, and now I'll make it in public, the general Democrats here in New Milford aren't the woke radicals that you see in D.C. They aren't AOCers. These are late 90s Democrats. Yes, they still believe in endless amounts of taxing and spending in terms of economic policy, but they don't believe all of the crazy BS that's been spinning around recently. They probably are on board with not concealing the fact, not deliberately concealing the fact in the classroom that you're teaching 5-year-olds about butt stuff, right? Or that you're trying to convince a 5-year-old that they're male when they're obviously not, or female when they're obviously not, and also hiding that from the parent, and also having an entire system behind hiding that from the parent, right? The New Milford Dems are a swing vote. These are winnable votes for any candidate who's running for Senate in this state who isn't, on the party line, because they've basically already been won by Democrats. So when it comes to Republicans who are running for major offices in this state, you should really be coming to New Milford, because New Milford Democrats are swing votes. They won't vote for Democrats here in New Milford. They vote Republican. Locally, they vote Republican. And again, these aren't the majority of Democrats in town aren't the 5 or 6 people who are in the leadership position at the DTC. The overwhelming majority of Democrats in this town were not on board with the smear campaign that the DTC leadership ran in last year's election cycle, where they called half the town Nazis, and where they doubled down on it when they got called out by Pete Bass on camera, and have been doubling down on it since. By the way, the veterans should just continue to go to these town council meetings and get on Mary Jane's case. Give Jeff McBriarty that 3 or 4 minute speech to read, a different one every meeting, and just have him and him alone go to the podium and read that 3 or 4 minute speech, and have him sit down like he does and be quiet the rest of the meeting just like he does. Like, he's the perfect person to do this. But when it comes to New Milford, this is a great place for opportunity to win over votes. So when Bob Stefanowski, who's going to get the nomination for governor this year, when he gets that nomination, he should be coming to New Milford. He shouldn't be sending his campaign manager. He should be doing everything he can to work in places like New Milford. I know there's not a lot of votes to get, but they're legitimate swing votes in the state where you're going to need every vote you can, and you're going to need Democrats to vote for you. As a Republican, you're going to need Democrats to vote for you in order to win here in Connecticut. So I get it that you can't be in 2 places at the same time, but I hope that if you wind up seeing this video, just to understand that New Milford is a winnable town, that you can flip Democrat votes in this town if you're willing to spend time here. But it can't be the optics of sending the campaign manager to an RTC meeting in a winnable town instead of the candidate. In this case, it might be worth having a special event here in New Milford, right on our beautiful town green, to win over votes here in New Milford. Again, it's not a lot of votes compared to places like, the I-95 and I-91 corridor. But how many people in West Hartford, how many Dem votes are you convincing in West Hartford to vote for you? Let's be honest. And by the way, this isn't just me dunking on Republicans. This is me basically following up the conversation I had last week when it comes to my own party, the Libertarians. And the Libertarians' failure to understand, the Libertarian failure to know your place. And in the case of Republicans running for a place like a Senate seat, you should know your place. And that's not to say sit down and get out of the way. That's to say know that the same old strategy isn't going to cut it. It just isn't going to cut it, right? You're going to have to go off. You're going to have to do things like focus on places like New Milford where you're going to straight up flip them votes, because that's going to have to be the goal. And speaking of that, Demis, if you come on, I said this to everyone who comes on the show. This isn't the DNC. I'm not Donna Brazile. You don't get the questions in advance. You don't get the questions in advance. We do it live, and we have a live Q&A at the end. That's to hold your feet to the fire and my feet to the fire. And we do that for a reason, because, again, we're better than Donna Brazile and the DNC. You don't get the questions in advance, and I'm going to make one exception. In this case, I'm going to give you the question, the singular thing that I care about when it comes to this sort of thing, and it's the singular question. I'm going to give you this question in advance. I don't give questions in advance, but I'll give this one. Demis, totally happy to have you just be fully prepared for this question. What exactly is the pathway to victory here? Right? Again, Republicans who are doing the nomination right now are certainly going to care about this question getting answered. Ostensibly, if you elect somebody, if you nominate somebody, one of the reasons is you want them to actually get elected, right? One of the things is, yeah, we like your what you have to say. We like your politic. How are you going to make that politic the politic of the Senate? How are you going to move that from you to D.C., right? And remember, Connecticut is a Democrat stronghold. So maybe the response is going to be something along the lines of, excuse me, Blumenthal isn't popular. So is there a chance? Yeah, there's a chance. But what exactly is the pathway to succeeding in that chance? And let's talk about Blumenthal, and let's talk about the seat, because Blumenthal is not popular. He's not nearly as much of a household name as, say, Bernie Sanders when it comes to the Senate. And again, instant name recognition is a huge part of winning elections. It's a midterm year in 2022 with an extremely unpopular president. And again, we can go to the YouGov polls. Let me bring up the YouGov polls on Richard Blumenthal. This is the best we're going to get because he's an obscure U.S. Senate candidate. Yes, he's the incumbent, which is, he has the power of the incumbency. Yes, he's a Democrat in a Democrat stronghold state. This is YouGov America. This is the YouGov polls. First things first, these YouGov polls, because it's YouGov, skew very left, skew very favorable to Democrats. And here's Richard Blumenthal, where you can see on the right-hand side, Richard Blumenthal among Democrats is the 74th highest rated by metrics of fame and popularity. 20% popularity, liked by 20%, disliked by 18%, fame 57, which is pretty bad. Among politicians in general, he's between Michelle Bachmann and Sherrod Brown, whoever that is, and 2 steps ahead of John Kasich. His overall popularity and fame is within Democrat ranks, 2 stops ahead of Bill de Blasio. Bill de Blasio. So this is not a popular candidate. By the way, we can actually scroll down and see exactly what this relates to. We've got fame and popularity. Millennials. Remember, these polls skew Democrat. And here's a part of why that's the case. Millennials, 26% popularity, which is way better than the 20% that's listed here. 57% fame, right? And in terms of fame, it's basically even across the generations, but it's the popularity that's extremely low against Gen X and baby boomers. These are the people that vote. Gen X and baby boomers. These are the people that vote. So this 26% is not going to be representative of the population that's going to be voting. It's probably going to be more like the unfavorability of Gen X and baby boomers that Richard Blumenthal has. And just to show you an example of what really good fame and really good popularity is, and you guys are going to hate this. I'm going to show you all politicians. Ready? Barack Obama, 95% fame, 56% popularity. So that's, in absolute terms, you wouldn't look at that and say, wow, that's amazing. It's not like 79% popularity and 100% fame, right? But if we go back to Richard Blumenthal, 20% popular. So a third of the popularity of Barack Obama and half of his fame on YouGov. Again, a polling site that skews very far left, very far Democrat, very much in favor of Team Blue. So if you're going to tell me that there's a chance, I'm on board. This is the year that there's going to be a chance. So let's capitalize on getting Richard Blumenthal out of office in the U.S. Senate, which is great. But now you got to tell me how. Excuse me, because there absolutely is an uphill battle to face here in this state for this seat. This is a major uphill battle for Republicans. And yes, Themis is going to get the nomination because she has all of the things you would want in terms of getting somebody elected. She doesn't necessarily have the best politic, though I actually love her politic. But, that when I say necessarily, I'm not saying she doesn't have the best politic. I'm saying she doesn't necessarily have it, but she's got the best winnability right now. And she's probably going to say that if she comes on the show. But at the same time, what exactly is that pathway? What is going to be done? What on the ground stuff is going to be done differently this time around? That question is a question I'm willing to just go ahead, prepare. If Themis winds up seeing this video, great. Go home, prepare. Come with a prepared answer to a live interview. Don't care. Because if you come with a prepared answer that's great, then we can know you've got an answer. Then great, you've got an answer. Awesome, amazing. If you don't, of course, then it's going to be egg on your face. And in fairness, I'm giving you the question in advance. So, again, if you're running for elected office here in Connecticut in 2022, and I realize that there are some super obscure municipal elections that might be going on in this year too because of special elections, love to have you on the show, and that's especially to the folks we talked about today. Already sent out the invitations to the Libertarians, so guys, stay tuned for all of that. So we're closing it. We're at 9 o'clock. It's much later than I normally like to run the show. So, I was hoping to have some time to set aside for the Tennessee marriage law. Maybe we'll do that on YouTube. Maybe we'll do that later in the week. Let me know in the comments if you guys want me to talk about the Tennessee marriage law. If we get some build up for that, we'll just do that on YouTube, because I'm trying to keep Facebook at least closer to what politics of the things that concern the folks here in New Milford. So with all that said, that's what's coming up. That's why I'm doing that. Love to get your signature on these petitions, folks. Again, link is in the comment section to the online version of the petition, and I will full on drive to your doorstep. And I've been doing that already. If you're willing to get on board with the on paper version, let me know. I'll reach out to you. We'll make our arrangements. If you have my phone number, you can reach out to me too. Ray Lillis has copies as well. He's been getting around town, so reach out to Ray too. Ray, I know I'm putting words in your mouth, man, but you took the copies from me to go get on paper signatures. The on paper signatures are the thing. If there's going to be a thing in terms of these petitions that's going to get these Republicans to have the brass to say what we agree with. They're on board with our position on this matter, and we're on board with their position on this matter. We just need them to have the nuggets, if you will, to say enough is enough. We're going to build a damn bridge to the spec that isn't going to waste any more taxpayer time and money. So, as we always do, we cap the show with some live Q&A. So let's go ahead and get to what everybody has been saying. Let's get onto YouTube first. Not much going on in YouTube. So, let's get onto Facebook and see what's going on there. Oh, great. Facebook, of course, has changed its UI again and has made it completely out of order. The comments here. So, and bear with me a second while I get everything pulled together. Let's see. Dan Donnelly, thanks for watching, Dan. Been super active in the comments here. All right. Excuse me while I get through all of these comments. Philip Rahr here is a good libertarian podcaster who is the Libertarian Party of Litchfield County's vice chair. Oh, okay. So he's tagging. Dan, thanks so much. Genuine thanks to the folks who wind up watching the show, right? I don't do this for any money at all whatsoever. So the reason I do this is so that as many people get to see this as possible. So Dan, I really appreciate tagging all these people and getting people involved with all this. Again, happy to have libertarians on too, as our fellow libertarian. Of course, I want to get libertarians on. I'd love to do some more interviews with folks. I've already got some stuff in the works. So guys, pay attention. We'll get those notices out as soon as I can. It is getting to be the spring season, and as a landscaper, those notices might be kind of last minute because of what my hours are going to look like over the course of the next 2 to 6 weeks. All right, more tagging. So Dan Donnelly, I really appreciate getting the word out. Much genuine thanks to everyone who's been watching. In 2022, we hope to elect Dr. Aaron Lewis for Connecticut, for the governor of Connecticut. Talked about that last week on last week's podcast. Yes, the Libertarians nominated Dr. Aaron Lewis to be their candidate for governor this year. Let's see. Wow, Dan, really tagging a lot of people here. Okay, good question about strategy. Yep, thanks. Thanks for tagging Dan Reel, who's the chair. Is he still the chair of Connecticut? I think we just nominated somebody else. Let's see. Ray Lewis. At least there will be 3 people in the room in response to this. Yeah. Yeah. In fairness, this show gets way more viewership when I'm on time. I was late today. I had a lot of stuff going on. As you guys know, I've been trying to help out the Lions Club. I've got a lot of things going on with them. We are going to be rolling out the Lions train for Goat Days, which is May 21st and May 22nd here in New Milford. That's going to be an awesome event. It was a great event last year. My buddy Jake stole the show with his axe throwing rig last year. So if you guys want to throw axes, we have axe throwing. There's going to be axe throwing there. There's going to be goats there. There's going to be horses you can ride there. There's going to be rabbits to play with. There's going to be all sorts of cool stuff at Goat Days. Goat Days was a great event last year. Lions Club is proud to be a vendor at Goat Days this year as well. And we'll have our train out so the little kids can go on it's a garden tractor that we made look like a train with some wagons in the back, so kids can go for rides on that around the park. But yeah, that's what I've been busy with over the course of this weekend, plus work, tests and stuff. So unfortunately, I couldn't get all of this done in time for 7 o'clock tonight, which is what we're hopefully going to be able to return to next week, 7 p.m. like we always do. I love New Milford, and not just because it has the word MILF in it. Great. Let's see. Hello from Yates County. Wow. Yates County, New York. Philip Rahr. Philip, let me know where Yates County is so I don't have to go looking on Google Maps at the last minute here. So thanks for watching from Yates County, New York. Really cool. Where is the axe throwing? Is that in Thomaston? Oh, no. So here in New Milford on Youngsfield Road and on Youngsfield, it's a big park here in New Milford, on May 21st and May 22nd, here in New Milford, we're going to have GOAT Days. GOAT is an acronym for Greatest of All Towns. We love our town here in New Milford. We hate our state, love our town, right? Based mayor, terrible governor. So GOAT Day is May 21st, May 22nd. Lions will be there. I'll be there manning the Lions booth. I may have to actually pull kind of something of a double shift and cover multiple booths there. I'll get word out about that. Rebecca, I hope George Logan and Themis Clarius take you up on your invite to be on the show. Rebecca, I hope they do too. I'll be sending out the formal invite later this week to the campaign manager, whose phone number I have. I'll just give him a text later this week. And hopefully she'll be willing to come on. Not exactly sure what the timing is going to work out with, because I'm not exactly sure what the timing is in terms of the nomination process. If the nomination process completes something like in the next week or two, then wait for the nomination to happen so it can. So you know what would be great is if I was the first interview she did after the nomination. That'd be really cool. Dan Donnelly, New Milford is beautiful though. Yes, it absolutely is. And thanks everybody for participating tonight, as we always do with live Q&A. We've got a lot going on this week in New Milford. With town council meeting tomorrow night, the town meeting tomorrow night as well. Wednesday night, the 13th, is the public hearing for our town budget. That's going to be presented before the Board of Finance at 7 o'clock Wednesday night in the E. Paul Martin room. This is going to be your last chance to get your input in to the proverbial powers that be before this budget goes to referendum on the 14th. That's Thursday night, the night immediately following the public hearing, which is a chance, again, for you to go to the podium. And because it's a public hearing, the chair has a lot of leeway in what they can allow in terms of the public hearing. Normally, it's these meetings, you get 5 minutes to speak, to address, in this case, the Board of Finance. Because it's a public hearing, the chair can say, there's only 7 people in the room. If you need an extra minute or two, let us know, right? And then you can get 6 or 7 minutes to let people know. And then once the Board of Finance completes their deliberations on Thursday night, that's where they have their back and forths and make whatever modifications they're going to make to the budget. For all intents and purposes, it then goes out to referendum. There's some clerical stuff that happens in between, but from there, it goes out to referendum, which will likely happen in the beginning to middle of May. So that's what's going to be happening this week. Again, I'm going to be getting out with the paper petition, so let me know, guys, if you want me to if you're on board with the petition. Happy to bring it to you. And again, tomorrow all day, I'll be in the E. Paul Martin room setting up for the town council meeting. So stop by. Let's chat real quick, and let's get as many signatures on this petition as possible. So I noticed I got a reply from Philip. Philip, we are in the middle of Finger Lakes between Canandaigua, Seneca, and Cayuga Lakes. Awesome. Cool. Oh, so he's in the middle between Canandaigua and Seneca. I'm not sure what that is. It's probably somewhere near Geneva. Rebecca. So that's cool that we're getting folks from that far away, about a 4 or 5 hour drive from here. Rebecca, May 6th is state convention for Republicans. Okay, so that's less than a month away. So I'll reach out to her campaign manager, whose phone number I have now, and we'll make our arrangements, which means that because the convention is on May 6th, it may actually be after May 6th that we have our conversation, have our interview, because, again, she's going to get the nomination. If you guys want to vote against her, great. I don't care one way or the other. I'm not a Republican. I'm not here to tell you who to vote for when it comes to the nomination. But she's going to get it. She's going to win it. She's definitely going to win it at this point. It's like Donald Trump in the final weeks of the 2016 nomination. It's going to be Donald. No matter what Ted Cruz does, it's going to be Donald. So that conversation may actually be about a month from now. And it would be really cool if that's going to be the case for me to be her first interview after the nomination. Philip Maher is the Yates County, New York Libertarians vice chair, and he runs It's Raw podcast. Cool. Maybe we can talk sometime. Let me know, Philip. Kevin David, is it going to be WrestleMania again? Yeah, well, this actually hasn't been a very contentious budget process, so I sincerely doubt that. We're gonna this. I was told. So we have daylight, not transparency. What everybody talks about when they say transparency is actually daylight. So we have daylight, as much daylight as possible in the process. Pete wants me to go ahead and film the entire public hearing, and Walter has said that this may be just straight up 30 minutes of dead air because when we don't have contentious budgets like this, nobody shows up to these meetings. Several years ago, when we had a really contentious budget and we packed Sarah Noble's auditorium, and I pissed off everybody in the room. I was the one that dove on the hand grenade. I was the first one to present. I used up all 3 of my minutes to say the thing that nobody wanted to hear when it comes to public education, and I backed it up with data and literally boxes and boxes of studies and reports that I put onto the Board of Finance's desk. And by the time I was done, it was so quiet. There were hundreds of people in this room, maybe 200 or 300 people in the room. So quiet you could hear a pin drop. Genuinely. I remember turning around and just the entire room was jaw dropped and silent because I said the thing that nobody had the guts to say. So that was one heck. That was one heck of a budget year. I believe that was the year that the budget took 3 attempts to pass. Philip Brar, Gail's about 15 minutes from Geneva. Hey, I'm actually pretty good at geography, folks. How about that? Mike Sennello attended college in Binghamton. Yeah, I cheated by attending college out in that area. So he's familiar with upstate's geography. So yeah, Philip, maybe we can connect at some point too. Ray Lewis hopes it's going to be WrestleMania. Yeah, well, there is a place for internet trolling, and sometimes that can be good. Ray is the absolute best at it. So anyways, folks, we're getting past 9 o'clock here. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next week at 7 p.m. At 7 p.m. next week, I promise, this time around. Back to our normal scheduled time. And we'll see you then. Good night, folks.